Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. If you're eating a sandwich, you should definitely sell the sandwich. Hangry in the sandwich shop. So this is actually not a story from me, but my fiancée. She doesn't read it and said it was okay that I post it here for that sweet, sweet karma. Last summer, my fiancée worked as a PA, production assistant, on a TV show. If you've ever worked in the industry, you'll know that it's typical to wear set blacks, black non-branded clothing for when working on set. Well, she was wearing her set blacks, black crew t-shirt, black shorts, and black flats, and had a surveillance walkie earpiece in. She'd been sent to go pick up the pre-ordered crew lunch from a chain soup, salad, and sandwich restaurant and walked into the store, making her way to the online pickup area. As she was walking, she heard a woman say, "Excuse me," as if trying to flag someone's attention, but my fiancée didn't think it was aimed at her, and she continued forward. She heard it again and still assumed that it wasn't aimed at her and wasn't her business, so she didn't pay it much mind and stood up at the pickup area waiting. After a moment of waiting, she heard the same woman again say something along the lines of, "This is the worst customer service ever," to her friend with her. My fiancée still didn't think it had anything to do with her, why should it? But she heard what seemed like drama about to start, so she started paying attention and became a bit invested in the commotion. Finally, an employee made their way over to the huffing customer, who we'll now refer to as HC, to assist her. And this is the exchange that went down. "Hi, how can I help you?" HC is visibly upset and making a scene, attracting the attention of everyone in the store. "I want to file a complaint. Your customer service here is horrible." She points to my fiancée. "She completely ignored us and is now just standing there doing nothing." This was said very loudly and very inflammatory, but my fiancée is not one to back down from confrontation. "Excuse me, are you talking about me?" "Yes." "Okay, well, first, I'm waiting here for food just like you. And second, I ignored you because, very obviously, I don't work here." The store was suddenly quiet, as everyone had been tuning into the drama that had just unfolded. HC pauses, sputters, visibly turns red with embarrassment, while the employee stifles laughter, and HC's friend, who was quiet all the while, looks embarrassed as hell. Moments later, the order is prepared and my fiancée grabs it. While walking past the red-faced HC, she holds up the bags of food and says, "Have a nice day." And our second story. Work here, but that's not in the slightest what I do. A few years ago, I worked at IKEA on Saturdays while studying. I worked at the goods issue. If you know what that is, you can start reading after the italics part. At IKEA in Europe, if you buy some big furniture, you don't get it at the self-service hall. An employee is printing you a piece of paper with your desired furniture, and with that, you go to pay. On your invoice, you get a number with which you have to go to the goods issue to pick up your furniture with the number on your invoice. As soon as you pay, the warehouse gets your order and the warehouse workers collect your order behind the scenes. Directly at the goods issue, there's an IKEA employee in a yellow shirt who locks on your invoice and gets you the order. That was my job. The warehouse issue is outside of the IKEA store, right next to the IKEA bistro. Normally, my job should not be that hard. Look at the invoice, look at the screen behind you if this order's already being collected or if it's finished, and give the furniture to the customer. Easy, right? Wrong. I had to deal with all kinds of customers. On this fateful day, everything was normal. It was around noon when I saw an elderly woman visibly unhappy at the bistro. She talked to herself, looked around, and obviously searched for an employee, but there was a big queue at the bistro, and no cashier was free at the moment. She turned in my direction and noticed my sorry yellow self. There were no customers waiting for orders at the moment, and that was why she started running my way. As she got closer, I realized how upset she was. As soon as she reached me, she started screaming in my face, "Why did you replace the wiener," in this context, Vienna sausage with pastry, "with hot dogs?" I looked at her dumbfounded, and before I could say anything, she continued, "Everything is being Americanized. First music and movies, now the wiener. That is so horrible. What do you have to say for your defense?" I had time to recollect myself. I tried to answer politely. "Sorry, ma'am. I'm not responsible for food decisions. I work here at the where issue," and pointed at the big sign behind me. "If you have a complaint, I can show you the way to the customer service." I pointed to the customer service, which was right next to me, but it was not visible from the bistro. She looked right and saw another long queue in front of customer service and decided against waiting for a few minutes and started rambling again. Everything was better in her time. Everything is crap today. IKEA is an international company that should respect Austrian traditions, etc. This went on for a few minutes until a few customers started accumulating behind her to get their furniture. I still tried to tell her I'm not responsible and can direct her to customer service, but she had none of it. She was hell-bent on blaming the hot dog decision on me, as if it was my fault. I then told her that if she doesn't have any furniture to pick up, she needs to leave because people are waiting for their orders. She got furious and wanted to speak to my boss. I was happy to appoint her to my manager, but when she didn't want to speak to the manager of my market but to the manager of IKEA in Austria, I told her I have no clue who the manager of Austria was at the moment. She mocked me for not knowing and started laughing. So I started ignoring her and talked to the customer behind her, who looked at me with pity and with his invoice in hand. As soon as I ignored her, she became bat crap crazy and started shouting how I could ignore her and how unpolite I was and that she was going to get me fired. She picked up things from my desk and threw them on the ground. Meanwhile, a colleague of mine had called our manager, who arrived with security and escorted the woman outside and talked to her for a few minutes. Meanwhile, I looked after the open orders from the customers and got quite a bit of pity from the waiting customers. Afterwards, my manager arrived and thanked me for staying polite, and the crazy elderly woman had gotten a warning. What I learned from this accident? Whenever someone without an invoice was running in my direction, I was going into the warehouse behind me and waited for a minute so the person could find another victim. And our third story. When your niece turns out to be an entitled Karen. Once again, I'm sitting in my favorite booth that overlooks the entire restaurant when I see a familiar face walk in. It was my niece, and she had some friends with her. It must have been one of her girls' nights out. We were rather crowded, and there was a bit of a wait. I went back to eating and doing the end-of-month paperwork when I heard my niece say rather loudly, "You will seat me now. Do you know who my uncle is? I can have you fired just like that." And Tammy, the hostess, tried telling her there were no seats, but my niece wanted nothing to do with that. She said, "My uncle practically owns this place. Mr. H, you know who that is, right?" Tammy nodded her head. "Yeah, I know who he is. I see him in here all the time." My niece said, "Well, then you should know I could have your job just like that. All I have to do is make one phone call and you're gone, missy." I was livid. My niece using my name to get a free ride? Something I frown on. I even looked down on nepotism. I got up, walked up behind her as she continued to rant on how she deserves to be seated. Tammy smiled when I spoke up. "Hello, Lisa. Nice to see you." "Oh, hi, Uncle," she said sweetly. "I was just explaining how I know you, that you're my uncle." "You're using my name to get a free meal. I don't appreciate that. These people, unlike you, work for a living. And I know your father's going to be very disappointed when I call him and tell him how you're treating these people." "But Uncle," she was being really snotty to me. "Lisa, don't you dare lie to me. Tammy was being nothing but sweet and pleasant. Don't you even dare try it." Lisa squealed out "But Uncle." "But nothing. I don't want you trying to be a mooch. I don't approve of it, and your father sure wouldn't." I apologized to her friends and told them they would have to vacate the restaurant now. "Tammy, you see Lisa in here, you have the right to throw her out, and I will contact the managers of the other 2 restaurants not to seat you if they hear you drop my name or give you any free meals. Lisa, I'm so disappointed in your behavior right now. Just go." Lisa stomped off with her friends, screaming she was going to tell her daddy. "No, you won't, because your dad will side with me. I know he doesn't promote this type of attitude, and I know he didn't raise you this way. Now go." It's been several years since then. She still doesn't talk to me. Her dad apologized for her behavior. Why, I don't know. It's not his fault. He's a good man and tells me he didn't raise her to be like that. But it's okay. He made her get a job working for me. Yes, I made her work as a dishwasher and said my name better not drift out of her mouth to gain favoritism with others. I think she's still ticked off, but oh well, I still have the respect of my employees. Update, my niece Lisa called me today out of the blue. It was a bit awkward for her at first, but we talked. She said she was sorry and wanted to apologize for the longest time, just didn't know how. I told her all she had to do was call, say she was sorry, and I would have forgiven her. We caught up. She told me what she'd been up to. I told her I already knew I'd been talking to her dad and mom. Just because I was upset didn't mean I don't care. And she says she knows it's no excuse for her behavior, but she was just trying to impress her friends. I told Lisa I understand, we do stupid things. She did invite me to her wedding. I invited Lisa to dinner with her fiance on Saturday. And yes, this time dinner really is on me. Old couple and iPhones. I was wandering around my local big-name bookstore between shifts, as I normally do, to browse what books I want to read next. It must have been an audit day or something, because on the 2 floors of the store, I saw maybe 1 regular employee and multiple important-looking people with clipboards walking around. I had been there maybe 15 minutes and had passed by every customer in there a few times when I decided on a book and went to search for somebody to ring me up. As I'm making my way across the store to the only open register, a small voice wafts over to me, "Excuse me, miss." I turn to face a cute old couple, obviously lost as can be. "Could you point us in the direction of books that tell you how to use an iPhone?" Being the chronic regular that I am, I brought them over, and they grabbed a book and walked off. I finally found an actual employee to ring me up, but lo and behold, this cute couple had went to the queue already. They proceeded to tell the cashier how helpful I was, and as old people sometimes do, I needed a raise. I never even considered they thought I was an employee, and I tried to explain I just shopped there way too often. They found it quite funny that I was not an actual employee and helped them anyway, telling me I didn't really need to do that. In the end, they insisted they buy my book for my troubles. And that's how I got a free book for being a pseudo-employee. And thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.